allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, roll call. Catherine.
Open.
Present.
Tim.
Here.
Alicia.
Here.
David.
Present.
Joseph.
Here.
And Ivy potentially will join us by Zoom. She was injured earlier today, so we're not sure. We are going to move into the consideration of the minutes now. And immediately after that, we will move into public comments. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Winthrop School Board meeting of November 15th, 2023 as written or with corrections.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Okay.
Do we miss agenda adjustments?
Oh, is there an adjustment to the agenda?
Just a correction, the Articles 6.3 was a kind of a cluster between Mrs. Descoulias and us. We put the wrong date down and she put the wrong location down, so they're not going to Salem, Mass, they're going to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and it's on the 13th, not the 12th. So it should say Portsmouth, New Hampshire on December 13th. And she can explain that more when we get to it.
All right, does anybody have any comments that they'd like to share with the board?
Sue Foster is saying volume is very low and hard to hear. So it might only be Kelly because she's struggling with her voice tonight.
Could we move the owl closer? Would that make a difference?
I can't, it'll just be closer near the space.
Oh, I see, okay, never mind. Okay. Sorry, Sue. Okay, no public comments. All right. Superintendent report.
So I sent that out in the packet, a number of the things that were in my report are also on the agenda, so I'm not going to spend time with that. I do want to make sure to talk about the financial report. And we are currently, as you saw on the agenda, at 42% of the year expended, which means we should have about 50% of the budget left. And the lines are all in pretty good shape, but actually, we had 3 different reports before we get sent out, because it just didn't look, right, it didn't make sense. So as I was inquiring, they kept getting updated. They're just, the long and short of it is, the new software still has problems, they're still working them out. And the one line that is most problematic is transportation. That's problematic for 2 reasons. One, we've had expenses that we're gonna get reimbursed for, and those reimbursements aren't back. And it also is one where it's having the most glitches, and we've been in touch with the Department of Education because we had to get those numbers correct, so that we get the correct amount of funding for the FY25 budget, which we're working on now. So, but overall, everything except for transportation is at or near. School administration is slightly below, and that's because the shift we made in Dean of Students has made that a little bit lower. I think that will end up fine. And of course, overall, the facilities, debt service is paid once a year. It's already been paid, so that's why it looks like it's so overexpended. But it will not. There'll still be a significant balance there at the end of the year. But overall, the budget itself is at 65.5%, and we would anticipate it to be about 58%. So all in all, it's in pretty good shape.
Does anybody have any questions for Jim?
Just have to, we have one appointment. Analia I don't even know if it's their last name, Alon, new ed tech at ed tech 3 at the grade school.
So no questions about the report or about the budget? Alright, the only thing that I have to report is that I have scheduled the orientation for, Monica for the 11th, and so I'll come in and do that with her. I don't have anything else to report right now other than that. Finance,
Did not meet.
no meeting, policy,
Did not meet.
when is your next meeting?
We haven't scheduled
We
yet.
haven't scheduled because it was just today and we had to reschedule.
Negotiations, we had our first meeting just to set the schedule and to set ground rules. So that is done, and now we'll move into actually attending those meetings and negotiating. The first 3 meetings are where either party can bring anything that they want to the table, regardless of how the other party feels about it. After those first 3 meetings, anything that gets brought to the table needs to be by both parties agreeing to it. No administrative reports today. Alright, the next thing on our agenda is the electric bus discussion.
Yeah, the electric buses have been a sort of a mixed blessing, or whichever way you wanna look at it. We've had, from the beginning, well, first of all, we had struggled to get our chargers in, and then once we got those in, started driving them, two of them have had pretty significant flaws with the windshields, and leaking during the rain, and Josh being somewhat concerned that the windshields could fall out. And you can imagine that it would not be good to have a leaky windshield on an electric bus. I don't think on any buses, but particularly not on the electric buses. So they've been, Lion Electric, who's the vendor, has been trying to address the issue. We've got some pretty strong support from Governor Mills, because we're not the only school in the state of Maine that has electric buses. And so she got involved. Cheryl Brackett is the Department of Education transportation person. So I've been sharing with her all of my communications with Lion. As a result of that, we've had to rent some additional buses from Sear, and because Lion is at fault for not delivering their product the way they're supposed to, they've actually have paid us, or that's part of the reimbursement I was talking about. So it was that we not budget or anticipate that we would need to rent buses, so we've been renting buses, and Lion has reimbursed us for 2 months worth of rental, and they will continue to pay us for the rental fees as long as we have to rent them until the other two buses are up. The drivers, I'd say it's a mixed blessing or a mixed bag, but because the drivers who are using them love them. I'm actually looking forward to learning to drive one, but real positive comments from the drivers who are using them. Let's see what else. We did consider round 3 of the electric bus program. It's a 5-year deal. It was open. I had somebody from our team sit through the meeting because we talked about possibly going after another bus. It would be kind of good in a perfect world to have 6 electric buses. And we could run all electric buses in town and not use any diesel buses in town. But it's should have thought of this before, that we couldn't, we ended up we're not going to be able to apply for them, because if you remember before, we purchased buses, used buses, because part of the deal is you have to trade in a used bus to get the buses. And our oldest bus at this point is a we have a 2020. All of our buses are really, really new. So we have 9 of them, counting, you know, when you count the rentals. We're not count the rentals. We have 9. So our fleet is actually in really good shape. So we're not going to be looking at electric buses moving forward.
Okay. Any questions for Jim about the electric bus report he just provided?
I guess I'm just wondering what the issue is.
Yeah, I can't really explain it except that the windshield, the biggest issue is that the windshield leaks. And so it makes it unsafe to drive the bus. Josh said once it was fixed, he took it out to drive it. It wasn't fixed at all. It still felt like there was a lot of vibration. And he felt like the windshield felt like it could fall out at any time. Lion has actually been here for the better part of the last 2 weeks working. It took a long time to get him here. It was that we based upon their direction, we took it to. We had 2 buses sitting at Portland Glass in Augusta for more than a month. And Portland Glass said there's nothing they could do with it. I don't know, to me it seems like you just would put some sort of sealer in there and whatever, but it's not that simple. And we're not going to rush the fix because it's 100% on Lion to deliver the product appropriately. And so we're not going to say, well, just do this and we'll accept it. It's gonna need to meet our standards.
So only a couple had the issue, because we are using some, or they got fixed?
Nope, the other 2 didn't have issues. Yeah.
Any other questions for Jim about the buses? Okay, thank you. Moving on to 4.6, the superintendent's letter to the editor's session. Jim?
Yep, this came up under public comments last meeting, and it's our practice, and practice of all boards that I'm aware of, that you don't respond to public comment at that time. So I asked that it be put on this agenda, and so I basically just have 2 things to say with respect to that. One, the most important thing, my top priority as the superintendent of schools is to do what is in the best interest of the school system. And I have a great deal of information to support why I believe that was the case, and so felt it was my duty and responsibility to do that. And the second thing is, as I was told by the school attorney and Maine School Management, that as a superintendent of schools, I do not surrender my First Amendment rights.
Are there any questions or comments for Jim?
I have a question.
Yes.
We've talked about this a lot as board members, like what our role is, and we can't speak on behalf of the board. When you say your First Amendment rights, is that you can post, because your role is different than ours?
Correct.
That you can post on behalf of the school versus us being able to post or write an article or whatever?
Well, first of all, you never give up your rights as a parent, so you can post as a parent in that role anytime. But yes, it is you hire me to do what is in the best interest of the district. And when I get information that suggests that something needs to be done in the best interest of the district, I have that responsibility to do that. It is, of course, very unusual. I've done this for 40 years. I am aware of it happening, but it's, yes, that is my job.
Anybody else? Any questions, comments, concerns from the public? Could please stand, introduce yourself, and then speak.
Yes, Madam Chair, Joe Petrosky. I was going to make a statement in public comments intentionally so that and present you with some information for your consideration, okay? I'm not interested in getting into a direct debate about anything that's being said here. In fact, I want to talk about something that's on the side of what has happened here, which I think is even more important than myself and any attempt to put me down. But I did not understand why we didn't have public comments. I was just outside the door and was that because nobody else was here?
We did have public comments.
Oh, you did?
Called for
Okay,
them
all right.
multiple times.
So if you don't wanna go back, then I'll stay and,
Do you have something you'd like to say while you're standing?
I would like to pass out something to you and spend 3 or 4 minutes,
Okay.
and you can time it if you'd like to. Thank you. This is a Winthrop alumni that's here tonight, not to say anything, but this is Bob Childs, and he actually was a student of mine when he was much younger. And everything. I wrote this, kind of stepped out on this thing in the sense that I think that the one thing that you have got to resolve here is public confidence in the school system and what's going on as a result of this. And while I listen to people say that I may have done this, or you've got this, I've never heard specifics. And I'm really interested in specifics, okay? Because this is only a step talking to you, because as I make in my presentation here, the clear case argument that you are responsible. The school board is responsible. You are the employer. And it's in statute as to what exactly you're responsible for. And so that includes when things take place against the current policy. And I listed actually a couple of current policies that I can't claim that I was an expert in looking at all the policies, but I can say they made an interesting point or two about the behavior that took place here. One of the things that happens here is that you have got copies of information that I received under Freedom of Information. It's a request that all of you can use. It's interesting that the other name for Freedom of Information is your right to know. And although that's the one thing I have heard that I've been criticized about. But the big thing about this is that you are involved in picking the superintendent. It is not the superintendent's job to speak for you unless you have authorized him to do it. And we can argue semantics here, but you can also argue the law. And I will tell you this, I'm real concerned about spending money that may not need to be spent. But again, I think you should authorize the spending of any legal money that you think is necessary. But let's not burden the taxpayer on this. But the taxpayer's gonna have a lot of questions about, how much is this all costing me? You do have some situations that took place here. I believe that Winthrop's previous school committees have put an emphasis, and I'm including you in this, not to say you're not previous, you're current right now, on hiring as administrators, as school staff, as teachers, as educational technicians. Those with the highest moral character and would serve as role models, a very important phrase here, as role models for the students in the community. And all of these people involved are gonna ask themselves, did I serve my community as a role model? Or did I create a new role model here? You have an interesting situation where you have an administrator and other school staff and some teachers who were communicated to in regard to how this election should come out. The question is, however, is that should an employer tell his employees how to vote? Well, the good news about it is, that's against the law. You've got to ask yourself if that happened. But the second thing will come up in your audits. There's a lot of federal money in here, there's a lot of state money in here. And these grants are governed by not having political participation. And so, just make sure that you're getting the right information here. And it's not my information, just use these as challenges, okay, for you to take a look at. The other thing, of course, is that in all of these assertions and other things going on, look for the example. You heard some comments tonight, and all I sat there and listened to, what is the example you're talking about? And that's very important to me, but that won't be decided here. I would not take and expect the school board to take a side in this thing more than what I'm gonna be asking you to do. Because if this does not happen, then I've gotta consider my other options. I have felt really offended by this, incredibly offended by it. But I am thankful for all the people that came forward, and the stuff that I don't include in this packet, but people have told me about, all of which needs to be confirmed, of course. I was glad to hear the comment made that we all have the right to speak, but you all have the right to know too. And that's one of the things which is at the bottom of all of this stuff here. But it is very important to remember, people were involved in asking subordinates to vote a certain way. That's a political action. And it's a very serious political action. And I am really concerned, as others are out there, about what is the effect of that on certain individuals. Some of which I've already talked to, not because I initiated, but because they came to me. And I said, I will not let you down, okay? You can be assured of that. I don't know what the grudge is here, but I can assure you of one thing, I will not let them down. They are right in saying, why would I want to work for somebody telling me how to vote, who also controls whether I am here or not here,
30 seconds, Joe.
okay? So you've got to look at these things. I've got a number of pages here. As I mentioned, the role models is very important. And then finally, let's go back to the state. State started today a multi-million-dollar campaign to attract teachers. Are they gonna come to Winthrop knowing what has just taken place? Are they gonna work for people who basically are saying, you gotta vote this way? And in this particular case, it's incredible. Telling people to vote for a school board member because it's in your interest to do it because you are affected by whether or not they will employ you or not.
Thank you, Joe.
One thing, you've got the power and you should do it tonight. I would terminate the superintendent immediately, do not incur any more costs.
Thank you for your opinion.
No. Holly, Kelly, I'm also gonna ask, I'm sorry, Holly, Kelly, I know I get mixed up, I've always tried. But the point is, I'm also asking you to recuse yourself, because you are in an email,
Thank you, Joe.
which
I
seems to
understand
give
what you're
permission
saying.
for
Your
him to
time
do
is
it.
up.
That's illegal.
Is there anything you'd like to say, or are you happy to have that be
Nope,
done?
I'm happy to have that be it.
Does anybody have anything they feel they need to say? Report on the comprehensive safety plan.
Yep. First of all, I want to sort of start with this. This, by policy, is a yearly voted on plan. We've been working on it. It should have been voted on in August. And we've been working with a group to get it prepared. I think we thought we had it in pretty good shape. And then, things have come up, since it was supposed to be approved. We knew it was gonna be late, but we were hoping to have it done sooner than that. And our hope moving forward is that we do have it, we review it, with the team, and that we, will have it, approved by you by August. So this is a yearly vote, because the comprehensive plan is supposed to be very specific, unlike policies, which are supposed to be more generic, with specific names, specific telephone numbers, those types of things in it. And we've got most of that done. We did an initial crosswalk with people who've been trained in Alice, with people who have other training with Love You Guys, and worked out there was some concerns that there was some contradictions between those two programs. And so we worked out most of those, and then got the Winthrop PD involved. Chief Furlan was looking at it, and of course, he was looking at the time the whole Boston shooting thing happened, and so he it became a back burner item for him. We continue to look at it. Then I recently was at a meeting with a lady from the Maine School Safety Group, which is a fairly new group at the Department of Education, and they're going to be involved. Chief Furlan then subsequently sent me information about another program called Alert, which is ALERRT. Has more information, so there's just a number of resources that have come forward. However, we feel like, and Megan is here too, she can certainly answer any other questions because she's been doing this with me. I feel like there's enough that's been done that we passed it out to you, and we're already behind. I'd like to get this voted on at our next meeting, and knowing that it's really not a completely done document, but I think it's done well enough it establishes our school emergency teams, and we approve this, if you can approve this at the next meeting, we can establish those teams, and they will be the core of the group that will work with us district-wide to work with, like I said, with Chief Furlan, with other law enforcement, with the Maine School Safety Group, and make the changes that we need to make in order to have it completely done and ready for you next August for the following year. And you will, by policy, be expected to approve this every year on a yearly basis.
Okay, so what is still needed on this, that if we vote for it, would still need to be adjusted and changed?
Megan?
So there are two additional pieces to the comprehensive safety plan. So this is a general overview. All of the information in this can be pretty much forward-facing. There's nothing confidential in it. However, when we start talking about reunification sites, some of those more building-specific plans, the confidentiality comes into play there, right? Like those are things that would not be available to the public. So at this point, we have all the foundational pieces that we can put forth to you folks and to the public. And really, the pieces we have left are called functional annexes, which get into the nitty-gritty for each of the school plans. And there will be some threads that'll be consistent across all three schools that the buildings will work kind of from a template on. But there will be some real school-specific pieces. A lot of that has to also align with what our emergency responders are needing. So they'll be part of that process as well. There will be some threat-specific annexes in there, and that we talk a little bit in your plan that you have, and that's kind of the crosswalk we did between I Love You Guys, which is a foundation, and Alice, and some of the language that we had to really work on. So we actually started this project last year, and as we started talking with our staff, we realized that we needed to spend some time and pull in additional stakeholders within our buildings to make sure that it was not contradictory, as Mr. Hodgkin said. So those pieces are missing, but it makes sense at this point for them to be, because they really need to be updated. We do have new leadership in all three buildings since we've really done a nice audit of that, so this is a great opportunity to develop collaborative teams and move it forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So between now and the next meeting, please familiarize yourself with this, because we'll be voting on whether to adopt it or not. Yes,
I just, and feel free to give me a call if you see things, you have any questions.
Mr. Dewar has his hand raised.
Oh,
Yes, Mr. Dufour.
need to unmute, Jay. I need.
Jay?
I'm here, I'm at the ice rink, so the Wi-Fi is a little slower.
Okay, it looked like you had your hand raised.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Kelly, can you repeat that?
Says that you had your hand raised on the.
I did?
Yeah,
If I did, it was inadvertent, I apologize.
okay.
Any questions right now about this plan?
I think I just to clarify, it was the same kind of question. So the pieces that you say are sort of missing are not structural to this. This won't be changed per se. There might be pieces added to it, and there are some confidentiality pieces that go along with it. But this isn't really changed.
No,
They're just-
that will not change. That lays
Okay.
the foundation for all the other pieces.
Okay.
So that's we're ready to get started.
Right, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Status of the waiver request from the MDOE?
I sent that to you, but I just, for for the public, just making aware that we did receive a letter back from the DOE that our request to waive the 2 days that we lost to the Lewiston situation have been waived, will not be made up. And also the day that the grade school lost due to the death of the pre-K teacher, Melanie Hanoi, that has also been waived and will not be made up. And the basic, and everybody who's asked for a waiver has been granted the waiver. I kind of expected the governor might make that a blanket decision, but that hasn't happened. But we basically all have used the same rationale, which is it's just a tiny piece of closure that we were hoping to get. So, you know, if we go beyond the number of days, we don't say, well, we have to do this because, and then bring up, you know, the situation again. So that was approved.
Any questions? Okay. And now we're gonna have Jeannie Ross talk to us about vaping at the middle and high school.
I'm all out of sweats because sometimes I'm in this big room. These are just some handouts for you. You might steal my thunder, so don't read them while I'm talking. Hey. And I'm sorry I'm back too, but anyway. For people who don't know me, I'm Jeannie Ross, and I know most everyone here in the room. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, and also for the last 5 years, I think, one of the district school nurses at the high school and middle school. And I want to talk tonight for a few minutes about youth vaping in Maine and some specific concerns about our school, okay, in Winthrop. Teen vaping is a public health issue in our state. Looking back, as a percentage of teen smoking cigarettes actually decreased over the past 3 years, which we were in the healthcare world very, very excited about. The tobacco industry came up with a new hook, e-cigarettes, vaping, Juul, is a host of words, so I might say e-cigs or vaping, but they're all one and the same. Originally introduced by a tobacco company, what vaping was for is e-cigs was supposed to help people already smoking get off smoking. So it was supposed to be an adjunct for smoking cessation. But quickly it's become a $26.5 billion business in the last year in the United States alone in sales. So it's big tobacco. It's targeting teens with fancy vaping flavors such as candy corn, cotton candy, brown sugar graham, caramel cookie, hot cocoa, you know, chocolate raspberry. All of these names are vaping names that I found on websites and just up and down Western Avenue and on our surrounding communities that have flavored tobacco products. All are very appealing to youth and sound very benign. A recent survey conducted by the Maine Academy of Pediatrics, which is the Maine Academy of Pediatricians, family practice, nurse practitioners, last year reported 1 in 3 Maine high school students report vaping use. So if you do the math, in a high school population, 1 in 3, it's like 70-something kids. And though the law in Maine says 21 and older, some states are 18, or Maine is 21 and older, unfortunately it's not consistently enforced, and teens have really relatively easy access to vaping products, and there's a lot of homegrown vapes, and so it's readily available. And I'd like to say that our students aren't vaping, but sadly it's not the case. And it's not Winthrop, it's all over the state of Maine, it's all over the United States. So it's not just a Winthrop problem, it's not that we have a worse problem than others. Maine has a worse smoking and vaping problem in teens than many other states in the nation, unfortunately, but it's not like bad Winthrop, it's the reality of what's going on. And it was shocking to me over the past few years. I realized how actually ignorant I was about vaping till a couple of years ago. I really did not realize the influence it had on our youth here in Maine. Pediatricians and healthcare people, we've spent a ton of time on leading these active educational campaigns to stop vaping in Maine, about the dangers of vaping. I have worked at Maine Med for a number of years until recently, and last year there was 2 teens. One teen transferred to Maine Med in the pediatric ICU on life support, acute respiratory failure. No history of any health problems in the past. The only identifier was he had been taking up vape in the past year. This was a student athlete at a high school whose parents were shocked. They had no idea. And so it has nothing to do with the stereotypic kids. Not my kid, it's the bad kids who vape, it's the bad kids or this. No, this is everybody. These are our athletes, our student council members, our drama club people, the kids that are the average, it takes no prisoners. Everybody is at risk, and if we think it's not, it's a certain subgroup, unfortunately, we're wrong. I mean, very wrong. A lot of misconceptions about the dangers of vaping that lead to these numbers, like why, it's not harmless, it's not just flavored water, and it does contain nicotine. They all contain nicotine, even though they say they don't, they're nicotine free. Right now, there's no rules on how you can actually measure e-cigarettes or vapes, so there's nicotine in many of these products, even though they say no. And it's, you know, we and I assume that you believe in the government and that they're gonna protect us, our youth. Unfortunately, that's just not the case right now. The tobacco industry is way too strong for this. They all contain chemicals, even if not nicotine, is bad for lungs. Formaldehyde, I mean, you know that, think of your biology class, what formaldehyde is used for. Acrolein, you see in any weed killer you buy in your local hardware stores. And diacetyl are common chemicals in e-cigs. The diacetyl is it's interesting, that was, you know, microwave popcorn used to be the butter popcorn that had that bright yellow popcorn. You don't see it as much anymore. Well, that's because a few years ago, factory workers in a popcorn factory started coming down with some serious lung diseases. And it was caused by that chemical. It was known as popcorn lung. These factory workers have irreversible lung damage. It was banned from microwave popcorn, but it's in e-cigarettes, vape. It's just beyond me. So secondhand smoke too is also damage to lungs around kids and people who don't smoke, just like secondhand smoking effect, there's a secondhand vaping effect. So even for our youth and our staff who don't vape, if you're around it in rooms that vaping has occurred, even though it's smokeless, it can still cause lung damage. Right now, we don't know about a link between cancer and vaping, it's too early, but we do know formaldehyde has a strong link to cancer, and formaldehyde is in vapes. So, I mean, it's not a rocket science to figure out that most likely the science is gonna tell us that it also is harmful. So, you know, why is it so popular with kids when this sounds so easy to say no? Well, it's flavored, it's easy to obtain, it's been promoted as like flavored water, that it doesn't contain nicotine, it's not really a cigarette, it's not nicotine. It can be disguised, it looks like a flash drive, it looks like a pen. I mean, I found vapes that I would have no idea that it's a vape. You can buy sweatshirts that look like Nike, Adidas sweatshirts that has the vapor in the hidden in the sleeve, the little strings of your sweatshirt with kids can, you know, chew on. That's the vape mechanism. So it's so easy to get away with vaping inside and in schools, and unfortunately one of the best places for kids that they love to vape is school bathrooms. You know, in the old days, smoking, you could smell the smoke. It's virtually impossible to catch someone in the act or to come in and find someone because you don't even know they're doing it. And our schools have been grappling with this problem. It's not just Winthrop schools, it's all over the state, it's all over the US. I'm on a school nurse network. We talk often about schools working to try to figure out how to stop this. You know, we do posters, we do presentations, the bottom line is the last 2 years, it was a constant battle in the high school, especially the bathrooms. This year, taking the exterior doors off, which seems extreme, but you know what, it's effective. Excuse me, because it gives the kids still have the bathrooms, but when you walk by, they're not gathered there. And a good thing about being a school nurse is you're not a principal, you're not an administrator, you're not a teacher, so kids talk to us about things. And last year, lots and lots of kids that Jen and I talked to, they didn't want to use the bathrooms because they were afraid of what they're going to walk into, they said. Like when they open that door and walk in, there would be groups of kids in there. They felt uncomfortable. They couldn't even use their own bathrooms in schools to use what bathrooms they're supposed to be used for. And you see David shaking his head yes. And so they use our school nurse bathroom, which anybody can. But the bottom line is kids should be able to use a bathroom. And the exterior doors have made a big difference, and kids feel better now. They feel safer. You know, it's a health, like I said, it's a health issue. I feel like we're responsible for watching kids for 6 hours a day, and we're supposed to provide them with great education and protect them. And part of that protection is keeping them safe from vaping. And kids are kids and they're gonna do that. And so the best way, one of the ways that we can do it too, is those exterior doors. I thank Mr. Dufour or whoever has been doing that. I know it's a hard decision. I know for some people it sounds weird, but it really, I think, has proven to be helpful, and it's not just our schools, it's throughout the state and throughout the US. And, you know, hopefully someday it's not something we're gonna have to do, but for now, compared to last year and the year before, I just am thankful that's one tool we have. Sounds like it's just the reality of things, it has been helpful. So and kids are, I think, feeling better about the bathrooms, that they can go in there and use them as bathrooms. So I just wanted to put that plug in to say thanks, and also just to let people know that handout is from the Maine Academy of Pediatrics and I think the Maine Lung Association, and it's a great little blurb about vaping, and hopefully just pass the word, because I know, like I said, 3 years ago, I was extremely uneducated, even though I thought I was, about the dangers of vaping. So thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
Could you clarify what homegrown vaping is?
Lots of times, like over 21, you know, people say, well, they can't buy it. And there are some, I'm not saying all stores and all, 'cause small businesses, it's big business, and flavored cigarettes are, it's a big thing, as legislation trying to ban them, and certain towns haven't. It's a money maker, and I understand small businesses. So lots of people make their own vapes. They make their own cartridges, they refill them. They put THC in them, cannabis. We had that problem a lot last year at the high school. So they make their own and then they sell them to other kids. And, you know, sell them in the bathroom even at a time. So those homemade ones kids are great at making, they reuse those cartridges and they can fill them with other ingredients and sell them, and kids really don't even know what they're buying.
Did you have a follow-up
Well,
question?
I guess I just have a comment. I had mentioned, when I attended the Maine School Management, Maine School Board Association conference, that they had two younger folks who had already graduated high school come in, and they delivered a presentation on this very topic.
Right.
And I would like to see them come to the schools.
I think teaching youth or younger is the best way to go. We did some travel programs in Portland where high school and middle school kids did programs and went down to the 4th and 5th and 6th grades and did those programs with the kids. Kids love that much more than having an adult standing with an open assembly for an hour and just like me, you know, in 5 minutes it's gone. So that, I think that's a great idea to reach out. And I know the wellness team is doing some things, and Lori and I were talking, maybe that would be, because I do think teens, and David, you and Joe, you guys know, you're teens, you know what's going on. I mean, I think having kids teach kids and being involved is much.
Specifically vaping that they talked about, that was the hot topic, and so I think that's very appropriate.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to each of us as a board to talk about how to address this, because I think it's an addiction, it's a crisis, and children are starting when they're in 5th grade, before they're able to really make these decisions, and then it's highly addictive, it's detrimental to their health, it's a health crisis. And so as an educational institution, I'm wondering what we would want to work with our schools and the different schools differently to start really a campaign on the education. I mean, it is a crisis. It's interfering with everybody's education, with the bathrooms, and people not feeling comfortable in the different rooms. And as a high school teacher, students, not so much in 9th grade, but by 11th and 12th grade, they are burdened by being addicted to something at such a young age that they cannot stop. And it's, you know, psychologically, challenging, it's, they're physically, so these are really something that I think we have a role to help. And, we can only do so much, but I think we have to do everything we can do. So it's one of those things, because it's an addictive healthcare crisis for our students. So I think we maybe just talk about a campaign, different pieces, different schools, with the schools. I'd like to talk about what directions we can give to our schools and give them the support to do what they need to do.
I think for us, it's giving them the support to do what they need to do. I think the direction needs to come from the school
I
administration.
totally agree.
I would love to see the deans of students reaching out to the Maine School Management and finding out the contact information for those kiddos. and having them come in and talk to your students, I think that would be great. You know, knowing what I know, thinking about, yes, stopping it before it happens is really great, but how do you provide your kiddos with ways to stop and not necessarily vilify the action as much as we know that this isn't something that you really want to continue to do. How can we help you without it being a detrimental discussion? Because some kids are just afraid to come and talk to you because they feel like they're going to be vilified instead of supported and upheld. So I think that's probably the biggest is, you know, the quitting support.
Yeah, if that was missed, I think it is really important to normalize this and not vilify it at all. They're not bad kids, they're not, you know, I think that was not part of what I said, that is what I meant to say. I think it's really important to just normalize it. This is something that's going on, it's out there, you're all going to be faced with it, you know, give them the tools, and then, support them when they don't. But I think it's, you know, take it out of the shadows. It's not an embarrassment.
And I will say, kids talk about it, and they're very open talking about it, and they have a lot of misconceptions that it's not that. But the kids that are openly, and the bottom line is, you're not supposed to be smoking or vaping on public schools anyway, I mean, so it's kind of a law they're breaking. And it's also condoning behavior that isn't healthy for them, and teens are teens, and I was a teen, I did awful things that I thought wasn't bad and that I was invincible, and just showing me a poster or something, I still might have been, I'm in that bathroom if that door wasn't open. So sometimes I think we have to be the adult and say, we're all gonna help you with this, but in the meantime, you're not going in that bathroom, we're using our bathrooms as our bathrooms now. So, but I think the non-vilifying, I think kids are, I think a lot of it's just ignorance, they don't realize until they're in too deep what they're doing. So I think we owe it to them to educate and try to address this.
And I also think there's a parent education piece, because then it also becomes very conflicting between parents, because then parents, and you can't find them all, you cannot, you can look through every backpack you want, but there's so many different ways to hide them, and then it becomes, so educating parents and supporting them, so again, what we can do as a school, I think, to support our building administrators and really prioritize that as something that's, I think, really important.
I think you do bring up a good point about educating families, because I mean, you, as a professional, thought you knew a lot, and then come to find out, digging in further, you learned a lot more. But a lot of parents are so overwhelmed, you know, families are so overwhelmed already, they don't have the time to do that digging. So, I don't know, maybe a one-page thing.
Portland did a presentation to all of Cumberland County, I think it was. And one piece is that parents can be the team members with their child instead of having it be the conflict of your vaping. Sort of talking to them is like, I wanna help you, so that taking it away from catching them vaping to, you know, talk to me about it and let's get you some help.
Any other questions or comments?
The comment is, I try to, you know, keep up with it all, and I can't tell some of those cartridges. They look like an electronic charger. So one of them could be sitting on my counter, and I probably wouldn't have even realized it. It's just one of my kids'
Don't go back.
things. So it's hard, even if you wanna know, you don't know.
Just so the committee is aware, we do have a district-wide wellness committee, and last year we partnered up with the Healthy Communities of the capital area, and we did vaping education for the staffs across all 3 buildings, because we have medical professionals who aren't aware, we have teachers who also are not aware too. So there has been some conversation and some work done that was brought in by our Winthrop Wellness Committee last year. And we've already talked around about that being one of the goals that we're gonna continue trying to work on this year. There was also a student who was trained with one of the people from the tobacco prevention, and they, I believe, did a presentation at the high school level. I was not present, so I can't speak anything to that, but maybe Dustin could. We're talking a year ago, so I'm not exactly sure.
That day I was at CATSI,
Oh,
so,
okay.
but there was,
No
there
pressure.
was something going on,
Yeah.
I believe, Joseph, were you there for that?
He was at Gansey too.
No, he was not at CATSI, I know for a fact. No, but,
It was one of
If
our
I-
seniors who graduated.
yeah, if I remember correctly, there was a anti-vaping thing that went on at the high school
I
actually.
do remember that now.
Oh, after I
We're hoping
say
to
it.
do that partnership and build, it sounds like there's other,
We
great
do.
resources we could take advantage of.
And Mrs. Fawcett says that the student leadership team at the high school is also working on something around this too.
Okay, great, thank you, Sue.
And I know, probably both of you, that there's some sort of survey or something that this, you
Yeah,
guys are
I
doing?
was gonna talk about it at the end, but I can talk about it now if you
Yeah,
want.
I mean,
It's
it
probably
fits.
appropriate now.
Okay, so, me, David, and Mr. Dufour created a, survey about whether the students felt more comfortable, thought it was safer, and how they felt about having the bathroom doors open. We put that out today around midday, and we should have the results shortly. But one point I wanna reiterate is no matter what the results, if there is like misbehavior around in the bathroom, they will be open no matter what, so. We'll get the results on that.
And we should have them by next meeting, I believe.
Yes.
Good job, guys.
Moving on to old business, I'll entertain a motion to approve policy JLCDB naloxone for second reading that was tabled from the last meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion before we take a vote? All those in favor? 4-0. I will entertain a motion to approve the 2024 to 2029 Winthrop Public School Strategic Planning Initiative.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Moving on to new business, I will entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Ann Palmerlow as a pre-K teacher.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Can I speak? Okay. Anne has moved into the pre-K position, and she was the former SKCDC teacher who worked alongside of Melanie in that classroom. She worked alongside Melanie for 2 years and has done a fabulous job for those 2 years. So it will be a perfect fit for us, for her to continue, and a leader. They co-taught, but she will be the classroom teacher from this point forward, and it also helped, I think, immensely with the transition for our kiddos. So we're very excited to have her.
And she is a licensed teacher.
Yes, she is.
Great.
Yes.
Any questions or comments for Jolene or Jim? All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. And thank you, Anne, for stepping into that role. I will entertain a motion to approve adding history of exploration as a new social studies elective at the high school.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Chair,
Come-
you're
you can
here
stand
if you
up.
wanna,
We're
if anybody
talking
wants to
about
ask
you.
any questions.
Okay.
So you will be teaching?
Yes, I will. Should I stand up?
Sure, yes, please, and introduce yourself.
I'm Jared Fonsteel. I will be teaching the class if approved.
Okay. Is there anything you want the board to know about the class?
Well, I did see the last meeting, and I think a lot of it was covered there by Mr. Dufour. I just think it's going to be a great class. I've been working on it for around 2 years, and I don't know what else to say at this moment.
It's good.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Have fun.
I didn't want you to, sit here all night and not have a chance to speak.
Cool questions.
We asked all our questions last meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the acting and drama club out-of-state field trip to Portsmouth, New Hampshire on December 13th, 2023.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
But you have to ask Mrs. D questions.
Mrs. D,
We're going to Portsmouth, New Hampshire to see the Sound of Music.
the hills will be alive.
They, the students are going for free because we got a really great deal. It was a last minute opportunity. They're going for free. They raised the money with the concession sales at the show that we did in the fall.
so they don't even have to pay for their tickets. Mr. D is gonna drive the van, and if I'm feeling up to it, I'm gonna drive a car so that I can give up my seat on the van so that one of the students on the waiting list can go. We have a waiting list, because the students had to, it was a first come, first served when they turned in their permission slip, so. We're very excited to be able to go, and we reached out today, and we should be able to get a tour of the historic theater as well while we're there.
Is the waiting list only because of transportation?
Yes,
So if other students can find their own transportation, maybe.
but probably not because of the tickets.
Yeah.
I can't even believe the deal we got on the tickets. The students are gonna be seeing a professional production for free, it's a $90 to $100 a seat ticket, so. Yeah.
Go.
So I'm very excited.
Any other questions or comments? Tell me all about it when you come back.
We will.
All those in favor? Have so much fun.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any suggestions to additions to future agendas? David? Joseph? No. School board comments. Catherine? Tim? Alicia? David?
Joseph covered it, we'll have those results next meeting. And I believe the first basketball game of the season is this Friday at 6. First home game.
Boys
Fill
or
the
girls?
stands. Boys, I believe. That is all.
Joseph? Nothing else? Okay. I don't have anything. There's no executive session. So without objection, I will declare the meeting adjourned at 6:57.
Good job.